Welcome back to the Lonely Road.
Cheers.
We're here to help you on your journey to heal and become a better human. This week, not as we record this, but as this goes up, this is my birthday. So, I guess I'm becoming an older human, not just a better one.
We all climb that ladder. Happy birthday, bud.
Fuck.
Yes, as we climb the ladder to become better humans ourselves and process through our grief, we're trying to take you on that lonely road with us because, god damn, it's a lonely road sometimes. And if you have a couple people that you can chat with along that road or walk with along that road, silently even, it makes for a kind of a better time. Kind of a better
Yeah.
time.
It makes it a hell of a lot easier if you know you have people you can consistently depend on and kind of lean on to do and be around and everything else.
It's true. It's true. There is a moment in personal growth that no one really prepares you for. And it's the moment you realize that you yourself might just be the villain in somebody else's story. Maybe not because you were cruel, maybe not because you were wrong, but because you chose yourself. It may be because you were cruel or because you were wrong. Or it could just be because you chose yourself or set a boundary or stopped explaining things or walked away or changed. Suddenly the version of you that they benefited from doesn't exist anymore. So today, Zach and I are going to talk what happens when your growth costs you approval, and healing rewrites those old narratives. When doing the right thing for your life makes you the antagonist in another person's version of the events. It's not becoming about becoming cold. You don't have to become cold. It's about becoming honest with yourself, and with others around you, and understanding that not everyone will survive the chapter where you finally tell the truth, even when if you gently tell the truth. Now, I went into it like a wrecking ball. I didn't tell the truth uh, like a ballerina, if you will. So I started telling hard truths out loud in public, and it kind of blew up my spot. So if you've ever been painted as the problem after choosing peace, even if you did it unconventionally or in you rethinking the way you did it now, that this episode is for you. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of being the villain in someone else's story.
And
But
before we fully get into that, go check out our merch, guys. Because all of us may be broken, but we're not fucking destroyed. We can keep going. We can keep standing on that fucking mountain and being a beacon of light for all the people that are around you and kind of support everybody that's around you and make all of us a better person. So make sure to go check that stuff out. And I do this this topic is hard because, and we were just saying this beforehand. I struggle with this hard because, like, the hard part of me doesn't give a fuck about being a villain in anybody's story.
yeah,
Because it's like, dude, I couldn't care less. But dude, you do. Regardless of if you want to sit there and be hard and stand on it and whatever, you do care. You because whether it's the like autistic morality version of like thinking about how you're looking at things, or it's just like you can't perceive where the fuck they're standing, or they are legitimately lying, you don't want to fucking get it. It's impossible to get because you're not in their shoes.
yeah. I mean, you may like the hard part of you needs to do, and so it's it's very easy to forget. You there's a part of you that grieves that disconnection. I mean, even between us, there was a lot of things that happened, but I'm sure that you grieved in your way, because I know I grieved in mine, when we were disconnected, and that estrangement, um, it creates ambiguity, because you have a grief for a person that's still living, with no closure and no clear ending. I mean, clearly we came back together in a different light, and we are moving forward to a different rhythm. And that is our clear ending, is walking together on this path of bullshit that we all have to be in.
The hardest part for me, and this is kind of like trying to figure it out and put it all like I'm still growing with all of you guys, and
Yeah.
that's the point that I kind of want everybody to see is like everybody still's growing. But like when you're sitting here and you know that somebody is somewhere being like, dude, this motherfucker's a bad person because this, and this, and you know, they are openly lying because the only way for them to get through the day or have their fucking life make sense right now because they fucked everything up and they're, you know, they're painting with shit on the bathroom wall because they literally have nothing better to do. They're still lying about you. The words and the thoughts that they feel that they're painting you as a bad guy, they're literally just putting shit on their face, but nobody sees it yet. And that's the hardest part to me is like, I feel like as kids, we're all shown like, hey, stand your ground, say
Mhm.
what's true. It doesn't matter about what you feel or what you think. You have to say the honest truth. And as you grow older, that's not how things are at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, you might be in a role when you're a child. You might be put into a role by, the people that are raising you, by your family. You might be the scapegoat. You might be a peacekeeper, a fixer, the golden child. Whatever happens, uh, what happens when you stop playing those roles? When you stop playing along, how does breaking that cycle move forward with life? It makes you the problem, right? It makes you the problem when you start breaking a cycle that you're not comfortable with. And families often protect the patterns over the people. And I think that's where we want to kind of have that bridge so that we can not protect the pattern over the person or protect the ideology over the person.
It's when somebody makes you the villain, it almost feels like they are avoiding accountability on purpose. Like they know you're right. Like if they're genuinely wrong and they feel like in the circumstance they have to paint you in a certain way so way people give them acceptance, they are running from the accountability from every single step of the way.
Mhm.
They don't want to deal with the situation. And
Yeah.
both of the main situations where this has happened to me, I was morally in the right in both situations 110%. It's just the painting of the situation that both people did that, you know, change how everybody's reaction happens.
Yeah.
But it's also the
From your point
autistic
of view.
mind accepting the morality as the main answer.
Yeah, and your morality being the morality, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's one situation can be taken by one person as I'm completely in the right, but there may be more details that are in the situation that make more light come to the situation, or even if not that, even when you look at the situation as it is, some people say that there's your version of events, my version of events, and the actual truth, because we both have different perspectives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that makes a lot of sense because you have a bias in a situation. So even if
Yeah.
you're completely correct, like I was saying before, you could absolutely be the villain in somebody's story by the way you deliver it.
Yeah.
You know?
And whatchamacallit, we had the same exact conversation on RMTS the other day when we had the voice actor James C. Burns on. And he said something that blew my mind. And I finally figured out what people should be saying is my truth or your truth because I hated that phrase. I fucking hate that phrase. I was like, it makes no sense. There's only one objective truth. There is no subjective truth. Subjective truth is bullshit. I stuck by the whole like facts aren't your feelings answer that Ben Shapiro stuck by for so long. But it's this my truth is my feelings, my perspective, and my thought process to the situation.
Hmm.
then the truth is what happened to cause those. And it's like, oh wow, that actually now that makes sense.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
has nothing to do with the facts of it. It has nothing to do with any of it. It's just your perspective of it.
and that's what I was talking about. You know, you have like if we got into an argument, you'd have your feelings and perspective on the situation, my feelings and perspective on the situation, and then just the facts of the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because you have to. It kind of rides a line. Like when you get into a point in life where you're having conversations with people that better yourself, the other person, the situation, the marriage, the relationship, whatever. You have to. You can't confuse guilt with wrongdoing. Like
Yeah.
if you bring something to the table, you may feel guilty for bringing something to the table, or you may feel bad for bringing something to the table, but it may be something that's completely acceptable to bring to the table. You know, so it may not be wrong that you did so. But you may feel some type of way about it. But the bottom line is that you're not going to be growing if you don't feel some type of way. If you're not
No,
feeling uncomfortable, you're not growing.
and regardless of why you have a struggle or an issue or whatever, if you're not questioning yourself of like why this person could do this and like what they're seeing, what they're feeling, and everything else, then you are part of the struggle and problem in this issue.
Yeah,
That's just how it breaks down. Like there's so many people that just don't want to believe or understand why somebody is saying something on the other side of a situation. And that's part of why somebody can be an asshole.
it takes a lot for somebody to look at themselves. Period. The full stop. That's the end of the sentence. But keep the sentence going. It takes a lot for people to look at themselves and say, "Oh shit, I fucked up." Even a little
Yeah.
bit, even if you felt righteous in the situation, you could have absolutely fucked up in the situation. So it's beneficial to look at a situation 360 and not just from your biased point of view. And you may think it's not biased, but you have feelings. You are a human being, and you can try to take that out as much as possible. But you are a human being. As much as you want to compute life down to probabilities, you have feelings, and they are taken into consideration when you have a point of view.
Yeah. It's just, it's so hard to, when you are genuinely as honest as you possibly can be. Yes, there's a percentage difference of how honest that is. I get that. But it is hard when just because you don't go somebody's way, that everything goes so ass backwards because they want to be loud or obnoxious about how they feel. It feels so drastic in those situations that it's really kind of hard to comprehend because you're like, that didn't happen at all. You're just saying whatever is inflammatory. You're saying whatever is thought provoking enough to make people feel. And because they feel all of a sudden, you made somebody have emotion, so they jump.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's like,
a tactic. Absolutely.
and that's what I think a lot of people do in these situations where they're like,
Mhm.
oh, no, you're now the Joker. You see this in media, you see this in life, you see this in relationships. The second that they no longer feel like you meet their purpose, they turn you into the Joker. And if you haven't seen The Dark Knight, the Joker isn't the person you want to be. Although he has a fucking amazing perspective on things, you look crazy if they don't fully get the full picture.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this villain in somebody else's story. I mean, it could be that you had bad intentions. I'm not the kind of person that ever did. My intentions were always good, but I went about them in shitty ass ways sometimes, which made me the villain of the story. I never had intentions to hurt, but I'd hurt people. You know.
Mhm.
But that being said, everybody has those moments in life. It's not being able to look inward and see where you may have been wrong. That's the challenging part. Where people don't want to do that. Um, people don't want, and that's the big thing about self improvement. That's called the work. If you I never knew what the work was. Well, the work is looking inward. The work is looking at yourself. The work is being able to take the negatives from yourself and turn them into stepping stones so that you can become more positive and shine your light more in life. But there's also another side to it, in my opinion. You become the villain when you start to set boundaries in unhealthy parts of relationships, you know, because to some, when you're in family or relationships, the boundaries may feel like abandonment,
Yeah.
because you're not serving that a purpose that they had for that, you know um
Well, I
and
think I think a lot of those times happen, like especially in families. You don't ever expect your family to fucking change. Like you expect your circle to stay as fucking cement as it possibly can. You don't expect anybody to fucking walk away, regardless of if that's mom, dad, significant other, kid, whatever. Like you expect that circle to be fucking solid. So the second that that person walks away and says, "Hey, you caused this," you're like, "I was planning on Disney World next week. What are we talking about here?" Like, there's no change, but you're not realizing why they're saying, "Hey, I'm walking."
yeah, no, I think there's a lot whereas there's that much of a disconnect. You don't have communication. You don't talk to the other about the feelings of the situation. That's where the big disconnect is, because then you have one party saying, "I don't know why this is happening," and you have the other party saying, I'm drawing boundaries. I'm becoming myself. I'm not trying to walk away from, the whole family, but I need to walk this path to find out what my life is going to be about. And I, I, d- I didn't need my family to leave me, and maybe it was me and the way I delivered things. And
I
now,
think in my situation, I did. I needed to be the scapegoat for a little bit to showcase what was actually wrong. And I know that's kind of like hard or obtuse to hear, but like as a whole, if I wasn't the scapegoat in the situation with me and my mom, and I wasn't the voice where it happened, how can anybody else go forward and say something? Like I am the loud and obnoxious one. I'm the one who's going to have the loudest feelings because they're heard the easiest, because I speak loud enough for people to hear it. If I wasn't the scapegoat in that situation and I didn't say something, things don't change.
well,
If I don't
somebody has,
push,
yeah.
if somebody doesn't push away completely and say, "Hey, I'm going to just walk away," it's the only way and path possibility for redemption. You have to cut everything.
Well, there were boundaries that were being crossed that you weren't willing to work with. And
Yeah.
until, some things came back to true north, you had to remove yourself from a situation. But you were also, on the other hand, going through a whole different situation. So it was something that I think you needed self preservation in one way or another. And you couldn't deal with the two wars. You had to deal with one war at a time. Um,
And you have
it's,
to.
yeah, absolutely. It's 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 really it's really important to distinguish between the harm you caused and pain that other people feel. Like, you may or may not have caused harm um, when somebody feels some pain. You may not feel like you caused harm, but if you need to be willing to listen to that person to know that, hey, wait, I did cause harm, even though my intentions were this and this, which were good. um, in the meantime, you caused harm. um, but You have to be able to say to yourself, self, okay, there's a level of accountability here that you have. And that's something that not a lot of people can do, self admitted. And me, I know I have a hard time doing that. And that's the first thing that I usually do now is look inward. Because if I don't, then I get caught up in pointing outward. I've
Yeah,
I found that trigger. So the first thing I do is point inward. Now that's a hard thing for people to do. Like you self-admittedly said, this is a hard thing for me. If you learn how to point inward to yourself first, and if you can scour that
I
situation,
do that always, which is the problem.
yeah,
Because I'm so opposite in that situation, I always look at why the fuck am I the reason? Why the fuck am I the cause? And I don't think that my analytical mind in that aspect is beneficial because I know the outcome 85, 90% of the time. I can think through most outcomes that are probable before most people have, you know, the answer to what's going to come. Most people will just think of, oh, this is my response to that. And that's the end. I'm five, conversations down the road. I already have a logical answer of how you're going to react, respond, and we're going to move forward from this. And it becomes so like philosophical at some point where it's like, okay, I'm either going to accept that I'm going to be an asshole in this situation or I'm not. And at some point, you kind of stand your ground of like, okay, this is emotions that I'm going to cause that either I accept that I'm causing them and, whatever happens, happens, or I'm not really trying to cause them, but I know that that's the likely outcome. And I think that that's the hardest thing to kind of fully grasp exactly where somebody's coming from. Like, there are a lot of times where I just thoroughly expect to be the asshole in a situation. It's like, no, that's pretty logical. It's like, okay, well, that was weird.
yeah, be careful. Be careful not to take on responsibility that's not yours.
Yeah.
You can look at somebody and say, "I'm sorry that you're hurt," without taking responsibility for their refusal to grow. That's just as true as if you have some part of responsibility to take in a situation, you need to take it.
Yeah.
And you need to, fuck, I was the asshole this time. I'm the villain. Because in retrospect, in every situation that you go through, every argument that you go through, both sides have most times both sides have an semblance of fault.
Yep.
Somebody did something first. Yeah, I get that. But there's usually in some kind of an argument, there's usually wrongs on both sides. And that's when you have to kind of assess, like in our comment section episode, we're going to assess whether a relationship is worth, whether we're going to repair most things in a relationship, especially family, loved ones. We're going to do what we can to communicate, get through things, except for those egregious hard stops,
Yep.
and we all have those hard stops. But like I said, you can have accountability without self abandonment. I guess that's what I'm trying to say on it all.
And unless something is drastic, and this is so hard to kind of grasp, and maybe you might be able to explain this a little more. You've had more relationship experience than I have. It feels like that more often than not now, a lot of people will jump to saying, "Oh my God, he abused me. Oh my God, she abused me." Like they are the reason why this thing blew up. And nobody wants to grasp the full entire story, regardless of what they saw beforehand. When a lot of situations now, from my perspective, whether that's family or relationships, is you need me now. And the second that I draw a boundary and it changes that you can no longer have me or need me, you're going to cast me to the side. And the second you cast me to the side, I do become the Joker because then you have to shit on me for me not being there. And if you don't, you realize you're the bad guy.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on the personality of the people in the relationship. But yeah, I've definitely been in relationships where whatever was going on, that person was going to make me the villain, to other people. I've actually had that spoken to me in my face. Like, I'll tell them this, I'll tell people this, I'll tell people you did this. Okay, now that's something that's hands down, like, nothing that I fuck with anymore. Like, I don't mess with any of that garbage. And that's all saying more about other that person than it is about you. Um, I I I I accept now in life. I accept, my my villain parts. Like, my parts where I fucked up. I'm big to hold myself accountable for them, but to answer your question, not many people are. So the majority of people in life are going to find ways to justify their behaviors because of something that the other person did. You know,
Yeah.
so it's all self justification. So they're not the problem. They're making themselves not the problem, and making another person the villain. And they may very well have parts in that, especially in relationship fights and things like that. You really can't, unless you're a very controlled person, you can't get away with not having a villain portion in it.
Yeah.
You know,
And, I think something that makes it so much worse is when you run to somebody and you're like, oh my God, this person hurt me in this way. We had this argument over this thing. And you don't fill it up with the same amount of energy going back to mom, going back to dad, going back to your cousin and saying, oh my God, we fixed it. It's okay. Now your mom, your cousin, your brother, whatever, is now against that person because you gave them ammunition in order to be like, hey, they're kind of shitty to you because you never showed them that you fixed it. You never stood behind the fact, hey, it's okay again. You never gave them that light because you allowed them into your relationship because you said, hey, this person's a piece of shit to me sometimes. You never showed them the good parts. Now all of a sudden, now you're building a support system for you to fucking walk away. That's all you're doing. You're not showing them to stand behind your relationship or stand behind that friendship or whatever. You're giving yourself an out because you're more worried about having one.
one of the big things that I've been saying lately is, if you're going to tell it all of
Yeah.
it. Put it all out there. Like, if you're going to tell what I did to you, you tell what you did to me too. Tell it
Mhm.
all. Tell all of it, because I'm not I'm not especially with the world right now. People, for the most part, online, perpetual online assholes, will absolutely tell a story the way they want it to be seen,
Yep.
not the way the video shows, or the source documents state. They want a certain narrative going out there, and that's back to Project Mockingbird and having all the media and saying all the same things, and the shit happens to this day, but people don't understand that. Step back, Karen. We're in an episode about being the villain. They're the villain. It's all the villain. It's the you can't, if you're gonna tell it all. Don't just tell the parts that you want people to know. Just don't tell the parts that make you look good. That's the
And
problem with people.
try your best. I know it's fucking hard. Take your fucking bias out of it.
Yeah.
If you could take your bias out of it, then you can actually get actual feedback or trying to understand from a different perspective or whatever. But if everything you say just has your perspective in it and the person is incapable of seeing other perspectives, you're going to struggle.
Sometimes also, you're going to have to, like, resolve yourself. Sometimes there isn't, we talk about being the villain in somebody's story and still having communications with that person, and you can get to a point, if you guys are able to communicate. Like, communication seems so simple, but when you get put human minds into communication, that's when it becomes Very, very difficult. But if two people are open to communication and you can take those villain moments and you can come to your agreements and make things okay, that's awesome. That's one side of the story. That's one side of what happens. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you have to let someone believe a story about you that isn't true. Um, and sometimes correcting it would be betraying yourself. So sometimes you just got to let it be, Louis. You know what I mean? Like because sometimes that communication isn't there, and you don't want to spin your wheels trying to communicate with someone or trying to um, make things right with someone when they've already made the decision that you're not worth making things right with.
And sometimes they believe it,
Yep.
regardless of who that person is to you. They could hear the most crazy story about you and all of a sudden be like, oh shit, I was right.
Yep. And
Guys,
yeah, it's crazy.
it's a lonely road. Sometimes you're walking with white face paint and green hair and you're the fucking Joker. And sometimes you're fucking Batman. And you may not be the hero that everybody wants, but you're the hero they need. They just might not see it. They might be afraid of that accountability. They might be afraid of the way that you're fucking speaking. And they might not even realize what you're speaking is true. But just like they said in South Park, sometimes there's a retarded monkey fish frog on the other side, and they thoroughly don't fucking understand. Guys, we'll see you fucking next time.